We're halfway through 2021, so how has multifamily performed thus far? In this video, we're going to hit 3 key metrics to track multifamily's performance and figure out what it means for the future. So make sure you hit the subscribe button right now so you don't miss more videos about building wealth through multifamily real estate. And if you don't know me, I'm Seth Ferguson, a 13-year real estate veteran, host of a real estate TV show, host of a real estate investing podcast, and I'm also the author of the real estate book, Sell for More. So let's get right into it and talk about multifamily thus far. Halfway through, it's the halftime show for 2021. Marcus & Millichap just released their second quarter stats and reports. I'm always a big fan of the work and all the information, really good information Marcus & Millichap puts out through their webcasts and through their research department. So definitely go check those guys out. They do some really good things. So we're going to focus on 3 key metrics: absorption, rent growth, I'll do percentage, and then we're also going to touch on vacancy. Vacancy. All right, let's get started. Let's start with absorption, our first metric. And what absorption means is really a fancy word of saying how many units are sold or absorbed into the market. What happens is product or units or listings hit the market, and then those are then absorbed through the sale, and they're basically taken off the market again. So how many units, multifamily units across the United States were absorbed in the second quarter of 2021? 218,000 units. If that sounds like a high number, it is. Going back to 1993, this is the highest number of units absorbed in a single quarter. That is ridiculously crazy. Multifamily is putting out and hitting some ridiculous numbers halfway through 2021. Now let's look at rent growth, quarter to quarter rent growth. How did multifamily perform? Well, the last quarter, so second quarter 2021, we had a national rent growth of 4.1%. Does that sound pretty good? Well, the last time multifamily hit this quarter over quarter rent growth was 1999. So we are talking about some pretty big numbers in terms of not only rent growth, but absorption rate. So more units are selling, being absorbed into the market, and the rents are really being forced up right now. So these are 2 really, really big numbers. So what about vacancy? And if you're new to multifamily and you're not sure what vacancy means, well, it's really how many units are offline or not occupied. That's physical vacancy. There's also something called economic vacancy. That's we'll leave that for another video, and I'll put a link right up here to a video I did explaining vacancy or occupancy, whichever way you want to look at it. So what about the national average in the United States? What was the vacancy rate? Well, it was 3.8%. If that sounds pretty low, it is really low. I'll put a graph up on the screen right now, supplied by Marcus & Millichap, and you'll see that vacancy is at near historic lows. We have the early 2000s when it was a little bit lower, and then last year as well, but we are still ridiculously low when it comes to vacancy. So we had crushing numbers when it came to absorption, heavy hitting numbers, record setting. We had year-over-year rent growth. The last time we saw this was 1999. Now we have a very low vacancy rate. So what does this mean for the future? Well, there is a housing crisis, a housing shortage, and we've known this for some time. There just isn't enough product hitting the market. And then we can talk about specific regional legislation issues that's kind of exacerbating the issue. We'll leave that for a podcast or another episode where I can go on for a couple hours and talk about it. So we have this housing crisis. And then we have the coronavirus issue that hit, and it basically froze everything for a while. There wasn't much action. So it's almost like a balloon, right? Like you have all this pent up demand because, you know, people are having, forming relationships, they're having children, they need to move, they need to get more housing, but everything was frozen. So now that the doors are kind of opening back up again in society, we've had this huge demand just hit the market. And this is the end result. Vacancies dropping, we've got rent growth going up, and then we have more units being absorbed back into the market. So what does this mean for investors? Well, a couple things. We have more units being absorbed, more sales. So there's increased demand or competition for the product. So when we're acquiring more product, there's going to be more offers. When you're selling, obviously it's a better time to sell. Rents are going up. What does this mean? Well, it means the NOI is increasing. Multifamily properties are valued based on what's called the income approach. And I'll put a link right up here where I talk and walk you through how to value multifamily properties. So when we have an increase in the NOI, the value of the property goes up, but combine that with more sales and more competition, this is also going to drive asset prices up. And then we have vacancy. So the more units that are occupied, the more income we have coming in, and that's going to boost the NOI as well. And then we also have more NOI, and that's going to increase the value of the property. So we have this huge demand, this huge push fueled by the housing crisis. And this housing crisis isn't going away. We could build new product for the next 10 years and still not hit the number of units required to really even out the demand. This is a huge push, a huge case for why you should be investing in multifamily product. Housing is one of our most basic needs, and multifamily definitely provides that to a large portion of the population. And just as a small aside, how did the other commercial asset classes fare? Well, let's just say multifamily blew the socks off of industrial, retail, and office. And when we look at the past couple of recessions and how multifamily fared, multifamily is incredibly stable and has traditionally or historically had shorter downturns and then more upside in pushing past the previous peak. And we saw this during last year and everything that was going on. So if you're interested in learning more about multifamily real estate, join my free Facebook group. I'll put a link right down below. Great group of people. We're always happy to help out. And if you are an accredited investor, go to callseth.com to set up a free 20-minute phone call with me. And if you like this video, if you found this useful, hit the like button, leave a comment, let me know what you think. What do you think is going to happen with multifamily? And until next time, happy investing.